Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NBA center Ryan Hollins.
Couple bump fakes, leans in, shot blocked by Ryan Hollins. Hollins sent that into the third row.
6 rebounds and 8 assists.
Hollins climbs the stairs.
Down the floor. Ryan Hollins! He is the high jumper!
That's what I want to see. Give me some gunpowder and throw the hammer down.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Ric Bucher.
Ric Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Ric Bucher. You can read my stuff on Bleacher Report. You can find me on Twitter at Ric Bucher. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. And he is Ryan Hollins. You can find him on Twitter at the Ryan Hollins. You can see him on ESPN. You can hear him on NBA radio. You can see and hear him on Clippers broadcasts. And you can find him on Instagram at Ryan Hollins. Also, keep in mind, March Madness is still rolling, and some upsets are not really upsets because you can see them coming. We've had a few of those already, although last weekend it went chalk for the first time in the longest time. Every top seed won. And I saw that coming, which is why I'm at the top of my bracket. My daughter saw it coming, which is why she's at the very top of the bracket. But I didn't put anything down, so I didn't really take full advantage of it other than the bracket. Don't be me. Look, all you have to do is put a few bucks on whatever hunch you might have, and the place to do it is mybookie.ag. They've been in business for years. They're reputable, and best of all, they pay out fast. They're even going to give you money to bet with. I'm not joking. If you put 50 bucks into a mybookie.ag account and use the promo code Bucher, my last name, they will instantly make it 75 bucks. That's right, a 50% bump for whatever you deposit, all the way up to $1,000. So imagine $1,000 becomes $1,500 to work with just by putting my last name, Bucher, in the promo code. Now, chances are you're looking to make a few bucks off your NCAA tourney bracket, but that's damn near impossible to get the perfect bracket. But granted, you've got to know that there's a couple matchups that you'd love to take advantage of. My personal one, Purdue. I'm riding with them all the way to the finals. It's a dark horse, but I like their chances. So why not make an instant profit from whatever your hunch is at mybookie.ag? I'm guaranteed it will make the game much more exciting to watch and way more fun to celebrate when it's over. So go check out mybookie.ag, and don't forget to use my name, Bucher, in the promo code for your 50% bonus. All right. There are no bets on who the greatest of all time is because there's no way of defining that. But Kobe Bryant was asked to do that, Ryan. And it was either that or eat some cow tongue. So we should establish the parameters here. It wasn't something that he volunteered. It was something that he took, in his mind, the lesser of two evils. I'll start with this. Have you ever eaten cow tongue?
Rick, cow tongue. You gotta.
Cow tongue is literally the tongue of a cow.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is.
No, I'm saying no. I haven't eaten it.
Oh,
that's right. No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I didn't understand what
you just said. Kobe was gonna have to eat cow tongue.
Right.
If he didn't answer the question, I thought this was like a saying, some old saying that, kind of like, hey, when you're tongue-tied or something.
Right.
I didn't know, literally.
Yeah, no. Literally, he had to.
This is like a truth or dare.
Yes. Either do this or you gotta eat a grasshopper.
I'm not playing that game.
Well, he agreed to play that game and started to eat the cow tongue, which you would understand. Like, the greatest of all time, how you answer that, it was between Michael, LeBron, and himself. How would he order them? And I can understand why he initially was like, I'd rather eat the cow tongue. And then he decided, I'm not eating cow tongue. I've never had cow tongue, so I don't know how challenging it is. I've been to China. I've eaten some very unusual things there, but I don't know. I would have eaten the cow tongue. I think I would have eaten the cow tongue. Because I know people who do, so it's not going to kill me. And as long as I didn't have to eat like a whole plate of cow tongue, that's the direction I would have gone. Nonetheless, he decided to answer the question, and he put himself first. How do you feel about the fact that he put himself first?
Rick, I've been screaming from the mountaintops that Kobe Bryant believes he's the greatest player of all time, as he should, for a long time. So,
wait a minute. Why should he believe that?
He can make a case for it. Well, why wouldn't he? That's what he worked for. I mean, the guy put on 24, one better than Jordan. I mean, like just because you hadn't publicly heard all those things and you've seen his accomplishments, I don't know why you would think he would believe personally that Michael Jordan was better than him or LeBron was better. It's like the dude's one of the greatest competitors ever. There's no way he's going to think any less after the career that he had. He has a case to make.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he has a case to make. I understand. I mean, based on what? He doesn't have as many championships. His numbers aren't as good as LeBron's. I feel as if Kobe wanted to prove that he was on that level. I believe that he, as he knows and as he has said, it's not anything that's definitive. It's an open debate. It's subjective in terms of who the best of all time is. Everybody has their different measuring sticks. I believe that he wanted to be in the conversation and he wanted to be able to make a case that he was on par or better than Michael Jordan by winning as many championships. He ended up not doing that. Now, I guarantee you, he looks at LeBron and says, honestly, not even sure he should be in the conversation. I guarantee you Kobe looks at it that way. But Michael's a different cat. He, from the very beginning, modeled himself after Michael. Wanted to be as much like Michael as he possibly could. And he came pretty damn close. But he measures it by championships. He's said it himself. He's got 5. Michael's got 6.
No, he didn't. He said my answer to a screaming fan, to obnoxious fan, comparing him to LeBron James was championships. He didn't say that it was his ultimate measure.
Well, but he says the greatest of all time, really, truthfully, should be Bill Russell because he's got 11 championships.
And we know that's not true.
What do you mean that's? What do you mean that's? He said it.
He was just trying to throw some shade at Mike. That was sarcasm, bro. Obviously, that was sarcasm.
I'm not so sure about
just by
that.
numbers. We're not going to grade it by numbers.
Well, but that is somebody would say that's a number. I mean, number of championships, that's a number, and Bill Russell has the most. Now, look.
So you know better than that. You feel better than that.
It's not something. It's not something that. Look, and this is why I would eat the cow tongue, because you can go down this rabbit hole and everybody's going to end up going in a different direction or making a different case. That's why that's why this debate never ends. That's why you can hear this debate. If you run your radio dial, if you turn it enough times, you're going to find somebody talking about greatest of all time. Whether it's Tom Brady versus Michael Jordan, or Michael Jordan versus Bill Russell, or Kobe Bryant, or Kobe versus LeBron, whatever it is. I mean, these conversations never end because there's no way to end them. But I do believe that Kobe was sincere in saying it's all about winning. At the end of the day, that's the only measuring stick. Did you win the championship? And by that measure, Bill Russell, by that very narrow scope, Bill Russell would be considered the greatest of all time because he has the most championships. It's not because I think he's the greatest player of all time. But then again, that's kind of a different definition when you go to greatest player as opposed to greatest blank of all time.
I know you know better, Rick.
I know better what?
I know you know better. You knew the intent and why that was said and why those things are thrown about. And it's pretty much to deface Jordan and Kobe's arguments of rings. And there is a level of rings that is relevant to the situation. It is relevant, but no.
Do you, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that Kobe Bryant believes that he's better than Michael Jordan?
100 times over.
Wow.
What are you talking about? Hold on, let me rewind this for you. He wore 24
Yes.
to say, I'm one better than Jordan.
Okay. I would think that was, I'd like to be one better than Jordan.
All right. You must not. You're Rick, you're a real confident guy, but you're a little more realistic. Now imagine someone 100 times more confident than you are. Are you kidding me, bro?
Well, actually, it's funny. So I'm going to tell this story. So at one point, Kobe and I talked about doing a book together. This is when he was still playing. And I think I approached him about doing this book. I said, and he was, I don't know where he was in his career. I don't think he'd won the last 2 championships. In fact, I think he was in that period between when he won the first 3 and then won the next 2. But he was making that turn in his career. And I said, it'd be of great value to all the players, anybody coming up after you, to know how it is that you did what you did. Because his work ethic was off the charts. His mental preparation, everything. And he said, no way. I'm not telling anybody my secrets. I'm not giving away like how I've become what I've become. And I said, I find that interesting because I look at myself and I've had people ask me, how do I do what I've done? And I tell them, like any young aspiring journalist or media person wants to know how I've done what I've done, I will tell them. And I said, the reason I would tell them is because while they're working on becoming what I've become, I'm working on going to the next level. So they're not going to catch me. And it's kind of my way of giving back and moving on because plenty of people gave to me and allowed me to become what I've become. And I said, imagine that. And I said this to him. I go, I can't imagine this. I have more confidence than Kobe Bryant because I'm not worried about somebody catching me. And he kind of laughed, and but he wasn't going to do the book and whatnot. And I was joking with him as far as the whole confidence thing was concerned. But I figured I'd kind of zing him a little bit. So about 2 years later, Kobe approaches me and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing a book." And this was like after Colorado and all that stuff. He goes, I don't want to do that kind of book, all the, behind the scenes, what happened, the salacious type of book. I want to do a book about how it is that I do what I do. I mean, it literally was telling me what I had approached him with like 2 years earlier. Because I want to leave this for anybody who's coming up. And I think he's ended up doing something along those lines. But I had to laugh because he had reached that point where he wanted to leave something behind him. And the only reason I tell you all this is because the whole confidence thing came up. I believe that Kobe aspired to believed he could be better than Michael Jordan, but wanted to prove it by winning not as many championships, but more championships. To have that. Ultimately did not get that. And I have to believe in his heart of hearts that Kobe recognizes that by his measure, he didn't outdo Michael Jordan. Now, the reason he would answer it the way that he did in that setting is for the reason that you said. Like, Kobe never wants to give in that he thinks that anybody was better or anybody could be better. So he's going to say, in that instance, I'm going to put myself first. Because it is completely out of his fiber to admit that somebody's better. But I don't have any doubt that he knows, based on what he was trying to accomplish, that his accomplishments fell short of Michael's.
Look, man, two things he knows. He knows Kobe. If he played Michael one-on-one, he'd wear him out. And the second thing Kobe knows is that he played against tougher competition and had team turmoil that he had to do it through that Michael never had.
Did Michael ever have a player of the caliber of Shaquille O'Neal? If you're going to talk about the difference in the way the games are played, who would you rather have, Scottie Pippen or Shaq?
Honestly, I could make a case for
I knew you were going to say I could make a case, because I could make a case too. But that's like the Giannis James Harden. That's like the Giannis James Harden debate about MVP. You can make a case why Giannis is the MVP. You can make a case. But and as I admitted on the Wednesday podcast, I know, and the players know that I've talked to around the league, James Harden is the MVP this year. Because it's not making a case. You just go, that dude's on one. That dude is having the year.
Were you ever saying anything different? Because I have been screaming that from the mountaintops.
I got that. But I'm saying that the case,
you're backing me up on that, right? Far before it was popular opinion, you were backing me up that was me, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
You were on it. You were on it early.
Please.
You were on it early. But in the case of Giannis being the MVP and Scottie Pippen being more valuable than Shaq, sorry, I can't. As much as I appreciate what Scottie did, if you're going to give me a choice between those two, it's not a hard choice. I have to take Shaq. And you know that too.
There's a factor of kind of having to motivate Shaq. As much as he scores, he'll trick off some free throws.
I get it.
The last 2 minutes of the game, you got to do everything.
I get it.
Where, your offense is just smoother, runs faster. You also have to take into account era. So,
yeah, but you know what? By the way, I know, and
era's big, bro. Era's big.
I mean, but you could say the same thing for Russell. I think going down the road of era is a straw man in terms of you can make the era thing work for you however you want to work for it. I think it's totally unfair to bring in era. We're always talking this is apples and oranges anyway,
unfair.
But then to suggest that Jordan played in a lesser era
and it's not unfair. Have you watched Michael's highlights? It's not unfair. It is not.
How so?
The centers and players that he was playing against, he was so much more physically bigger, stronger, faster, quick. Bro, that is truth. Bro, that's true.
Wait a minute.
The athletes
Jordan was better than the centers? What?
The centers that he would go around and pick a roll or dunk on they were just some stiffs, bro. There were some big stiffs. And then not just that, the people guarding him were bad. And Kobe played against better competition. Obviously, because Michael inspired many to play basketball, but the competition level had risen far superior to what Michael played against. Far superior. So you can't just dismiss that.
Wait a minute, but we had Shaquille O'Neal, we had Patrick Ewing, we had David Robinson, we had Akeem Olajuwon. Were there some guys? I mean, did every team? Alonzo Mourning.
I'm not just talking about some of the main guys because those are just God's gifts. I'm talking about the others. I'm talking about all 30 NBA teams, or 29 or whatever at the time, 28 with the expansion. When Michael would drive to the hole and he's jumping over a stiff center who can't jump over a phone book. There are a lot more of those than the Hakeems, than the Olajuwons at that time. So just his road. Greg Osterstag was the starting center and played mass minutes for the Utah Jazz, bro. Mm-hmm. like there were a lot of differences in the play to where you do give a nod to say, yeah, no doubt I'd take Shaq. But if you actually understand, Shaq had to compete against some decent competition on the other end. Now, but he's a dominant. We don't take that away. but it's not just as skewed. But Rick, my thing, right, is I'm looking at the others. It's not just the stars, it's the others, the common folk, the role players were completely different.
I get all that. The game was different. The game was played different. The idea that Jordan somehow, Jordan in this era, you give me a prime Jordan in this era, he's averaging 40 points a game. He is doing his whatever James Harden is doing that is historic. Michael Jordan is trumping that. Because it's not just, were there some stiff centers? Sure. But the front lines of teams, you had to have a quality big, either at the 4 or the 5. So, there were teams that had centers that were space eaters. But you also had, at the 4, you had Tim Duncan, you had Shawn Kemp, you had Derek Coleman, you had Larry Johnson, you had Rodman, you had Barkley, you had Malone. It was going amongst the trees was not like you're just taking a walk through the park. Those guys were allowed to hit you, and there was always at least one guy that you did not want to get hit by. And Jordan was playing in that era. This idea that he played against like plumbers and carpenters, and it was...
Oh, he did. Go back. I want you to go back and watch Jordan's highlights and like patiently watch them. Like, who was guarding this guy? Is it Mark Price guarding him or whoever on the sideline? And Michael Jordan palms the ball, puts it over his head, and spins around. It's like, are you kidding me? Who was guarding him? I will put it like this. I'll give you this. Michael's toughest competition, and not to say that Michael didn't have good times against them, the Stacey Augmans of the world, the long athletic guys that were big. Right? 6'8", athletic, Clyde Drexlers, right? Well, guess what, bro? The NBA right now, and Kobe's NBA had more of them, every team has probably 7 or 8, 6'8" or 6'7" long athletic guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So just like you're going to have a field day, just the fact that I'm looking at you and Rick, when I look at you and I'm physically faster, stronger, jump higher, and I can shoot the basketball, the game is easy. And not to say that the NBA finals were easy for Mike or the playoffs, because everything is going to tighten up. That's not going to change. But just like the road to glory, bro, is a different thing. It was yours to lose.
But this game today is a far more athletic game, which is why you see more athletes in it. At the time of Jordan, you could beat the spit out of somebody. Go look at the highlights of the physicality that he had to deal with. Literally, there were guys where they would grab his leg in midair and pull him down, and that was
you think
common
Kobe
foul.
Cares about physicality?
Well, in terms of
stop him?
being able to get to the cup, being able to compete and deliver on a nightly basis.
You think that Kobe would care about physicality?
No. I'm not saying with Kobe, but if you're gonna say, like, first of all, Jordan versus Kobe when it comes to athleticism, Michael Jordan was a more explosive athlete than Kobe Bryant. Not close.
They were different. I believe Kobe had more wiggle. Mike was actually stronger, just naturally stronger.
But he was like more explosive. His rise to the rim, when he went to the rim, he got there in an instant.
I would say stronger. I don't know. Kobe, I don't want to say Kobe jumped higher.
I feel like he was longer. I feel like Kobe was longer.
Yes, he's taller. Mike is probably closer to 6'5" than 6'6".
Yeah.
And Kobe's probably closer to 6'6" than 6'7". And Mike has those just big old strong hands. Kobe didn't have those, but Michael was actually more of a small forward to today's standards in general than a shooting guard. And Kobe had more of like a point guard's handle, but obviously was a pure shooting guard. There's a difference within those two. Like Michael could do more on the block than Kobe. Kobe was just more finesse.
Well, but again, if you took Michael and you put him in this era, he becomes a point guard. He's handling. He is what Michael was at the beginning of his career, which was give him the ball and get out of the way.
You're telling me like the way that he would have developed as a like his game?
For sure. He would have been a 3-point shooter. He would have been taking you off the dribble. He played in the mid-post because that's the way the game had to be played for him to take full advantage, especially once he played in the triangle. For him to utilize everybody else.
Well, we'll never know, Rick.
You're exactly right, which is why this conversation and debate will never, ever, ever end. All right, but it's going to end on this podcast for now because first of all, by the way, you went to see the Captain Marvel movie. I should have asked you at the very beginning. What?
I did.
And?
Oh, man, I loved it. I loved it, every minute of it.
Can we get a review?
I would go see it. I mean, this isn't like, how would I put it? Like, this isn't like Infinity Wars or whatever. You're not going to get the cast of a million different characters, but it's going to answer a lot of Marvel questions from the past. So, if this is your first Marvel movie that you're ever seeing, I would suggest you go back and watch the older films.
Okay.
But if you're already in the Marvel universe, you're going to die for this movie. And you've likely already seen it like a week ago, if not longer, like day one. But it was really good. She's kind of freaky, like with the stuff that she does. She's super powerful.
Okay. Jusuf Nurkić is not super powerful at this point. Had devastating compound fracture. Have you, first of all, and this always amazes me when you think about, and it happens more in football, it feels like. Football, guys are like, you wonder whether they're going to walk again. Basketball, it's devastating, and you wonder whether they're ever going to play again. We've seen Paul George, Shaun Livingston, any number of guys. It takes some of it out of it, and where you look at it and go, well, we've seen guys come back from almost anything. So the idea that Nurkić isn't going to play again, I don't necessarily, my mind doesn't go there. But this has a huge impact on the Blazers, obviously. Have you been on the floor when a devastating injury has occurred? And what's that like for a player in the midst of doing your job to see something like that and everything goes full stop?
Let me ask you, son, what's probably the worst injury? I don't want to say in NBA history because maybe you're old enough to know something wild that I wouldn't know, but kind of during my era of recent time, the worst injury we've had. Worst player injury.
For me, the worst, on the court, Rodney Rogers hurt, basically paralyzed himself on an ATV. But on the court, Shaun Livingston was the worst thing I've ever seen. I thought that his leg was just shredded.
My man, I was there. To this day, I haven't watched it. For some reason, I don't know if I was talking or whatever, but I looked over, he went down, and the game, everybody was like, oh my God. And I remember just like, it was different. Like, I remember Raymond Felton like sprinted over. And normally, like, when another team gets hurt, you don't go over there. You don't stop. It was kind of similar to that. And it was like, hey, no, game's over. We need to attend to this because this kid has one of the brightest careers and futures ahead of him, just oozing with potential. And he just went down. And I just remember I never looked at it. And I don't know if I almost want to say they were showing it on the Jumbotron. That's how the times have changed, right? And I never looked up to this day. I don't even know if I saw it. Like, even if it kind of came on TV, I'd look away because I don't even want to see that.
Who were you playing for at the time?
Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah, Charlotte. And I missed it. It was like on a fast break. And Ray felt so guilty because everybody first looked at him like, what'd you do to Shaun? They thought he took him out, and he never touched him. And he had to plead his case like, yo, I was just running back on defense. And that knee went out. And what's really interesting, Rick, and in lieu of this, the one and done rule going away, so I talked with trainer Jason Powell for the Clippers, and I worked with Jason. He was there at the time. And Jason stated that Shaun's body, similar to NFL, and that's why they have their age limit rule, hadn't developed yet.
Yeah.
And he actually physically was never meant to be playing in the NBA and that many games and with that type of pounding, and something had to give. And his skills had far surpassed his actual ability that it was disgusting. His body hadn't even developed yet, bro. And and that's a real intriguing because he was just naturally about 6'7", 6'8", had been working on his handles, decent mid-range shooter at the time, could dunk it, but he hadn't even grown up yet, bro. He haven't even finished puberty. Not to, it's kind of like a funny thought, but like, who knows what this dude would have turned into if healthy. That's just the never know story, because Rick, he had 20 to 25 more pounds to gain of just muscle and explosiveness within what he was just gifted.
What do you think, kind of spinning back, and I'm thinking now we should have Shaun on the podcast to talk about the one and done going away and guys coming from high school because of the experience that he had. I mean, I'm sure, and I think I've had this conversation with him, he's in favor of the one and done going away and that option being there. But considering the physical torment that he went through as a result, I'd be interested to know if he thinks things are different, or if there is a cautionary aspect to this that people really haven't considered. I think you bring up a great point.
Well, the one thing in the NBA I will say from a maturity standpoint is they're really getting ahead of kind of with this junior NBA program.
Yeah.
Where these kids in the NBA Top 100 program, which is really excellent because these kids get mentorship at a young age, and they're kind of taught the ins and outs where, the Garnetts, the Lou Williams, the Kendrick Perkins, those number of guys, and we can go down the list of actually who came out of high school and avoided college. They necessarily didn't get that training. They didn't get it. They just kind of figured it out, or some of them that we don't hear about didn't figure it out that came out of high school, but they're getting this training. And what's really cool about the NBA's Top 100 program is that they fly out the parents, and the parents take seminars on how to deal with their kids, to understand what they're going into. And I think even for the NBA, just a simple for a notion for myself, and 99.9999999% of NBA athletes, so imagine even more so the young ones, your parents weren't famous. Your parents weren't NBA players. They don't have the slightest clue the value of a dollar or what you're going to become. And at age, 18 or 19, for these kids now, they're thrust into a position where it's number one on the totem pole in their family, and some don't. So there's a lot to learn, but you love the NBA getting out ahead of it because it's a good problem to have, rather than these kids going to college and everybody making millions of dollars off of them without them even touching a cent, which is it's disgusting, bro. Rick, if you really knew the money that these AAU coaches and these programs made off these kids and these college coaches to where they don't see a dime, there'd be a much bigger uproar. See, just those numbers aren't put in the faces of what's really going on. And the NBA knows it, and they're doing something about it, which is what I love.
And that brings up, we had the Adidas executives who were found guilty, and now we have Michael Avenatti, known for his defense of Stormy Daniels and that whole thing with President Trump. He's accused Nike of that they've been paying high school kids in the same way that Adidas has. Avenatti is now being, I think he's been charged with extortion when it comes to Nike, but he's put some details out there. But the fact that Adidas got popped, are you trying to tell me that realistically Nike wasn't doing the same thing that Adidas was doing?
Let me give you some basic. Those kids of that caliber ain't stepping in the door. Their handlers, their parents, whatever, without at least a couple thousand, if not 100,000. They ain't signing with Nike. They ain't getting on the circuit. They ain't doing that. They ain't even getting on the plane without a whatever.
Yep. Yeah. No. And that the part that's going to have to be proved, and if the federal government gets involved, I have no doubt that they'll be able to prove it, which is that Nike it's one thing paying these kids, which then again, they become pro, so their collegiate eligibility would be for naught. But the aspect that Nike is paying them and then funneling them to Nike schools, that as far as that to me is that's the worst part of this. I know a lot of people are going to be up in arms. They're supposed to be amateurs, not supposed to get paid. Look, that's the business of it. And for the same reason that I think Zion should be compensated, I don't really have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the shoe companies wanting to get in early and say, hey, when you turn pro, we want you promoting our shoe. We want to make a shoe for you, and we're going to pay you now to get a leg up on doing that. I don't have a problem with that. It may be against the rules. I don't have a problem with it. The idea that they're paying these kids and then saying, and we'd like you to go to this school or this school, that's the part that bothers me. That's the part where now you're manipulating them for the benefit of the NCAA. And there's no way that they're doing that without the schools being involved in it. And that to me is the part that's the worst part of it. Maybe I'm being selective, but that's the part that bothers me the most.
Man, Nike shouldn't have no dealings with that, bro. You can't get these kids without getting your hands dirty. They not accept. See, we used to do all this for shoes, bro. We used to do this like, man, y'all send me some shoes, which is illegal as hell.
Mm-hmm.
We used to do all this for shoes. They know, man, I need that bread. You want me Nike circuit? I need that bread.
Yeah.
And there's a demand on the grassroots guys who actually handle the programs, but they got to pay it. They got to pay it. Their livelihood is on the line. They got to pay it. The cat's out the bag, man. These dudes know what they're worth.
So before we say goodbye, I did want to hit this with Nurkic out. How much of an impact? The Blazers right now are third. They're half a game ahead of the Houston Rockets in the Western Conference. How much of an impact does this make for them, either maintaining their position and in the postseason?
You know, I talked with an exec from the Blazers yesterday, and the one thing he said to me is, people don't understand. He's been their second best player all season long. And the thing Cantor brings to the table is Cantor is going to be a great finisher, punish you in the paint. But the reality is Nurkic developed a little two-man game with Dame that you could replace. And the one thing he was doing was protecting the rim. You know what I'm saying? So that's what was huge and what they're really going to miss. So I'll give it to you in a simplicity, some scouting report stuff. If I'm guarding Dame, who's now shooting the ball 4 steps beyond the three-point line, I'm going to jump out and take away the three. And now what Dame is doing, instead of trying to beat the big around the corner and still score, as soon as you jump out, he hits Nurkic. And Nurkic is going and scoring or getting another guy a wide open shot.
Yep.
So that
or getting Dame on the cut. Because if you jumped out, now he's got space. No,
Dame is at the 3-point line. We're talking about people being uber aggressive. Dame is out to play at this point. So what I'm saying is that's the key. That's the key and what they're really going to hurt. And is Cantor going to be able to short roll for them and protect the rim?
Right. But I've seen where when they play that two-man game and they come to jump it early and he pops it to Nurkic.
Yeah, I was more so talking about I know what you're talking about. I was more so talking about pick and roll coverage.
I got you.
Not an actual trap.
I got you.
Kind of like an aggressive show.
I got you.
But no, you're absolutely correct. Dame will, with his guy face guarding, he'll throw it out and then go get it, which is a smart play.
Right. So, with that said, I mean, I know they lose something, and it's devastating because when Nurk first came there, they looked like a house on fire. And then he had a devastating injury, and that changed everything. They didn't have an Enes Kanter. They didn't have a Rodney Hood. I feel as if in some ways, and I think Al-Farouq Aminu wasn't the player that he is now. I feel as if in some ways they're better equipped. I think Zach Collins, they've got enough guys that can help them a little bit. You're 100% right in that. A second best player. CJ McCollum's been pretty damn good, but one of the top 3 without question, and having a special year without question. I feel as if they can survive a little bit better, as good as Nurkic has been this time around than when they lost him last time.
I don't like him in the playoffs regardless, whether he was
even if they had Nurkic.
Yeah, I mean, CJ just got hurt too. You know, and I understand he'll be back, but I didn't like Portland regardless.
Well, right now they're matched up. They'd face the Clippers in the first round.
I just don't like Portland regardless, bro. I don't. Not in the playoffs. And they're in a position with a lot of these contracts, they can't move them. They can't move up. They haven't upgraded to the way the NBA's played today. And they're more experienced. I like Dame. I like CJ, but like they haven't upgraded. And they know they're kind of stuck with what they have. That's why Nurkic was a great pickup. They had to do a good job there, but
they got him at a good price too.
Great price. Yeah, 10 a year. It was ridiculous. It was a steal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just what I'm saying. No.
Yeah, I've long felt that way when it comes to Portland in the postseason. But there is something about continuity, and I feel as if when I look at the Western Conference, there's a lot of teams in transition. This year feels like one of those years. I'm not a big believer in Denver. There's Utah. Utah has been very much up and down. The Clippers are in transition. The Thunder...
Have you been watching the Clippers? Have you been watching? You know they're the hottest team in the NBA right now.
I understand that.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't. You can't, Rick.
They've won 6 in a row. I understand that. Are you telling me that I should be scared of them in the playoffs? No, hell no.
If you're not a team that's complete, yeah.
Okay, but
yeah.
So you're taking the Clippers over the Blazers in the first round.
You better have your money's worth, bro. Yeah, they better have their money's worth.
All right, we may have to may have to put a little wager on this. It ends up being that.
Yeah, Rick, that's not really what you do. It's not really for you, Rick.
Oh, it's for me. Your money is for me. Yeah, if we're gonna, I'd be happy to put a wager on that. Oh, speaking of which, if anybody out there wants to put a wager on something on the NCAA tournament or whatever, mybookie.ag is the place to go. Reputable. They've been doing it for a long time. You get your money fast, and they're going to give you some bonus cash to work with if you use my name, Bucher, in the promo code. All right, that does it for this episode of Bucher and Holland, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast network. If you enjoy the show, or even if you don't, drop us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. We don't 1-star, 5-star. We're open to compliments and criticism equally. You can go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts to do that. And then if you want us to send you something, screenshot your review and tweet it to us at Bucher Friends, and you'll be entered for a chance to win. All right, that does it for this podcast. In the next, Will Blackman will be joining me. Ryan, do you have any questions that you'd like Will to answer about anything NFL, life in general? You guys, now, did you guys ever settle your beef? There's a little beef brewing among my podcast mates.
For one, Will wants no parts of me, and I want to know if he can beat my 18 reps that I currently did on bench. I'm sure as a player he probably had that, but I want to know if currently he can get 18 reps on bench at 225, because I just did that. I don't think he can. I'm putting that out there. I don't think Will Blackman beats me when it gets down to it, and we're talking bench. I don't think he does. So I'm just throwing that out there. I know he's a strong dude. I know what he was. I watched him. He's a freak athlete. I don't think he beats my number.
I will certainly pose that to Will in our next podcast. All right, that does it. As always, thanks for listening.